Alright, station 1. Let's take a look at equivalency. So for subtracting and adding, when it says subtract 5 from both sides of an equation, remember when you're subtracting and adding to the like terms. So on the left-hand side, we have the plus 3, so I'm subtracting 5 from the plus 3. On the right-hand side, there isn't a constant value. There's only the 6x. So one way to think about this is like you're adding 0 on this side. So if I'm going to subtract 5 from the other side, I would have to subtract 5 from the 0. And that's going to give me the equivalent equation. So the 2x doesn't change because I'm not subtracting 5 from 2x. And now I'm doing 3 minus 5. So remember, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. The 6x doesn't change. But now I'm doing 0 minus 5. So 0 minus 5 is negative 5. And that's the equivalent equation when I'm subtracting. It's the same for adding. Remember, you're only adding or subtracting from the like terms on each side of the equation. So hit pause right now and try 2 and 3. So you can hit pause and try 2 and 3 and get it signed off by a teacher before you can move on. Okay, now you should have completed 2 and 3, and this should be checked off by a teacher, Ms. Friselis or Mr. W or myself. Now we're going to try multiplying and dividing. So when you have multiplying and dividing requires you to do that operation to every single term in the equation. So this is saying to multiply the equation by negative 3. So I'm multiplying everything in this equation by negative 3. So be careful with the negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive. So negative 3 times negative 2 is 6x. So I'm going to actually write this over so I can see exactly what I'm doing. So I'm multiplying this side by negative 3, and I'm multiplying this side by negative 3. So now it's just distributing, and you guys are really good at distributing. So negative 3 times negative 2x is positive 6x. Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 times 6x is negative 18x. And negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, or minus 9. And that's my equivalent equation. So remember, when you're multiplying or you're dividing, you do that to every single term in the equation. So now you can try 5 and 6. You can also do 7 and 8. So do 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then get the teacher to check it, and then you can move on to the next activity. So you can hit pause here on the video right now. Alright, the last station, you're just identifying the steps. So you're given this equation here. So this is our equation to start off with. Something is happening as we move down from step to step to step, and we're just identifying what that operation is that's happening. So in this first problem, I'm looking on both sides of the equation. I'm looking how it changed from this to this step and from this to this step. And if I take a look, well, it looks like the 2 stayed the same. So I know based off of that I can't be doing any multiplying or dividing, because that means everything should have changed. So if the 2 stayed the same and the 1 stayed the same, nothing changed there. So now I'm just looking at the negative 2x and the 5x. And it looks like if I combine these, negative 2 plus 5 is 3, and 3 minus 7 is negative 4. So it looks like our first step here is combine like terms. Now for my next step, I'm looking what happened from here to this step. So again, I look at my constant values, the 2 and the 1, those have not changed. So I'm not doing any multiplying or dividing. But somehow my 3x is turning into negative 2x, and my negative 4x is turning into negative 9x. So I have to figure out what could I do with these that I could get them to become these numbers. So if I'm turning from a positive to a negative, that most likely means I'm subtracting something. And I have to do it to both sides. So to get from 3 to negative 2, I have to make it more negative. So it's going to be minusing, I think, 5x. And that makes sense on this side as well, because minus 4x minus 5x is negative 9x. So here we're subtracting 5x on both sides. Okay, again, I'm looking at my terms and seeing what's changing. And this time it looks like every single term is changing. So when that happens, that's signaling to me that I'm multiplying or I'm dividing. And in this case, we're getting bigger, so I'm increasing, so it definitely means I'm multiplying. So now I just have to figure out what am I multiplying by, and it looks like I'm doubling everything, just multiplying both sides by 2. Now for my next step, I'm noticing on this side that the 2 has gone away. The negative 18x hasn't changed, the negative 4x hasn't changed. So there's no multiplying or dividing, but the 2 is gone, and this decreased from 4 to 2. So what makes sense to me here would be that I'm subtracting 2 on both sides. Because when I subtract 2, that's where 0 comes from, and that's why there's no term here. So it looks like I'm subtracting 2 from both sides. And now again, looking at this, everything is changed again. Every number is different. So that means to me that I'm probably dividing or multiplying again if everything is different. And it looks like this time my numbers are getting smaller, so that means I'm dividing them by something. So it looks like if I cut these each in half, that's what's happening. So it looks like I'm dividing both sides by 2. So that's following the steps of finding equivalent equations. So on the back side of this, finish the practice problem and then get it checked off by a teacher, and then you can work on solving if that's the next station you need to do. Good luck.